Hello friends, today we are going to start the lesson force and pressure. In the first class, we learn about that the what is the force and the effects of that the forces. Now in today's class, we will learn about the types of the forces, contact force and the non-contact forces. So one by one, we will see that. First of all, I will tell you there are the two types of the forces. One is the contact force and another is the non-contact force. So there are the two types of the contact forces, muscular force and the force of friction, and the three types of non-contact forces, gravitational force, magnetic force and the electrostatic force. First of all, we just recall it, what is the force. So the force is nothing but the to push and to pull anything, and the necessary condition which we learned in the previous class for the force is that two bodies must be interact. Means whatever the force you applied on that the particular object, they should must be interact with each other. So the bodies in a contact with each other, such type of force is called the contact forces. And the bodies not in a contact with each other, means the force is applied on a body without any contact in between them, then such type of force is called the non-contact force. So one by one we will see what is the contact force and what is the non-contact force and their types. So the contact force are force exerted by one object on another when they are in a contact with each other. Means two objects must be in a contact with each other, then such type of force is called the contact force. Now in this diagram there are the four diagrams. One is there, the books are kept on that the table. So is it possible to lift the book without touching it? Is it possible to lift that the bottle, to lift that the bucket without holding it, to kick that the football without kicking it, and to push that the cupboard without pushing it with the help of the hands? So the answer for all these questions is no. Means whenever you lift the books, the contact of the hands with that the books must be necessary. Means your hands apply the force on that the books, then only the books can hold, the books can lift. Whenever or you lift the bucket which is full of water, if you want to lift it or hold it, then the contact of the hand must be there. Then to kick the football, the contact of the foot with this the football is necessary, and to push this the cupboard, the contact of the hands or whatever your body part is necessary to push it. So what is the muscular force exactly here now? Okay, this is the contact force, means the contact is two bodies must be in contact with each other. Now the muscular force is what? When we push an object such as a box, or when you lift a bucket of water, then the force is caused by the action of our muscles. Okay, when the muscles perform any action, okay, means for lifting action is there, or the pushing or pulling, so the force is caused by the action of the muscles. So this force is called the muscular force. So not necessary every time the force is applied directly only, but sometimes indirectly you can apply the force on that the body. For example, when you are cutting the vegetables, when you are cutting the fruits, then it's not possible to cut it with the hands only. Means hands only means we require some object to cut it. So with the help of the knife, we cut the vegetables of fruits. Means the contact of that the knife with that the fruit or that the vegetable is necessary. Means the two bodies are in a contact with each other, and also we are applying our muscular force there. Okay, means the action of the muscles is there. Similarly, hammering of the nail with the help of the hammer, also pulling a cart by horse, animals also perform the muscular force. Okay, means any load they can pull it with the help of that the rope. Okay, so the ropes attached to that the particular animal, and they can pull that the load. So this is the muscular force. Now the force of friction. Do you know Why a heavy box on pushing does not move easily? Why it requires a greater force to push it? Why a rolling ball stops after some time? Suppose consider that if I have this ball, okay, I give it a motion, then I push it, then it start its motion. It move at a particular time for a particular distance, but after some times what happened? It stops its motion. Why it stops its motion? Because there is a force of friction. What is the force of friction now? When you are pedaling a bicycle, but after sometimes when you stop the pedaling, then what happen? The bicycle stop its motion. When you are driving your car and you not apply the brake, you not accelerate it, then after some time automatically it stop its motion. So why this all the things happens? Because of the friction. So exactly what is the friction? When an object moves in a contact with another object, okay, the force known as the friction comes into play. Means what is the role of the friction? The role of the friction is to oppose the motion of the object. Okay, the frictional force is the contact force because the one object is in a contact with the another object. Means when you are moving on a road, means your foot is in a contact with that the road, you start moving because your force is greater than the force of the friction. That's why you overcome the force of friction. If your force is less than the force of friction, then you are not able to move any more forward. Okay, see here in this example also, the football is moving on that the grass. When I push that ball or when I kick this ball, then it start its motion. But after some time when I am not applying any force on it, then it is possible to move it continuously. So the answer is no. Why it is not continuously move? Because the force of the friction opposes the motion of that the ball. Here also the man is trying to push that the one cupboard, but it's not possible to push it alone. Why? Because the pushing force of that the man is less than the force of the friction. The main role of the friction is opposes the motion of one body over another body in a contact. Means when the two bodies in a contact, here is the surface, okay, on that surface the cupboard is there, means they are interact with each other. So the man is trying to push this cupboard, but the force of friction opposes this motion. If the force of friction is greater than the pushing force, then uh, then it is not easy to push it. But if the pushing force is greater than the force of friction, then the motion is possible only. Means the role of the friction or the force of friction is to oppose the motion of that the particular object. Okay, so this is the force of the friction. In that figure, the figure A and the figure B, is it easier to ski on a grass or a snow? Where is the friction is more and where is the friction is less? So on the grass the friction is difficult, but on the snow the friction is the uh, on the grass the friction is more and on the snow the friction is less. So it is easy to move on that the ski compared to that of the grass, because the opposes of the motion, the possibility to oppose the motion is greater on that the grass comparison to that on the snow. So the friction is nothing but the force that opposes motion between two surfaces. Okay, so this is the friction force. So the frictional force is the force which opposes the motion of that the body which is in a contact with the another body. This is the frictional force. Now, next is the non-contact forces. There are the three types of the non-contact forces: gravitational force, magnetic force, and the electrostatic force. One by one we will see, but first, what is the non-contact force? So the force that can be applied without any contact between the two bodies is called a non-contact force. So first we will see that the gravitational force. Everyone very well know about that the Newton's law of gravitation. Okay, Newton's story that one day he was sitting under the tree, and One apple falls down on his head, and he discovered the law of gravitation or the gravity. So do you ever think about why the leaves and the fruits fall to the ground when they detach from the plants? Why all the objects, when you throw upside, they come back, or they falls down? If I have this ball and I throw it up, then it comes back down. Why this all the things happens? Because of the earth's attraction. Okay, this is because of the gravitational force, earth's attraction. We can say that this is the gravitational force. So the force due to earth's attraction is called the gravitational force. Means whatever the thing which is move upward direction, they always come back to the downward direction because of the earth's attraction, and this earth attraction is called the gravitational force. So the gravitational force is one example of that, the non-contact force, because here no two bodies are in a contact with each other, but still they get attracted. The force is exerted on that the body, so this force is called the gravitational force. Now next is the magnetic force. Now you know that in your previous class, in sixth class and in seventh class, you learn about that the properties of the magnets. Three properties of the magnet: directive property, attractive property, and the repulsive property. Okay, means here also you see that the north pole of the one magnet and the south pole of the another magnet, they are attract towards each other, but the same poles or the unlike pole, same poles or the like poles always repel each other. Here also the south pole of the magnet and the north pole always repel each other. Means the directive property, the attractive property is they always attract each other, and the repulsive property, they always repel each other. So the magnetic force is that force which can attract. Suppose here I have a one magnet and here I have a one magnetic material. So what is the tendency of that magnet? The tendency of the magnet is to attract this, that the magnetic material, they attract towards that side. Okay, or either they attract, either they repel. Means the force between two magnetic poles placed at a suitable distance is called the magnetic force. Means if there is a magnet and if there is any magnetic material at a particular distance, so it has a tendency to attract it without contact it. Okay, means there is no necessary condition that they must be in contact with each other. Without contacting it, they can attract it or they can repulse it. So the force between two magnetic poles placed at a suitable distance is called the magnetic force, in which like poles repel and the unlike poles attract. So the magnet can exert a force on another magnet without being in a contact with it. Okay, so this is the magnetic force. And the next one is the electrostatic force. Have you ever played at the game, or have you ever did that activity that you rub the scale on your hair and try to attract the piece of paper by holding the scale at a particular distance from that the piece of paper? So what happens there? The piece of the paper is automatically attracted towards that the scale. Why this happens? You are not just in a contact with that, but still the piece of the paper is attracted towards the that scale. Or when you rub the balloon on your hair and you stick on that the wall, then it stick, or it attracted, or it hold it for a particular time on that the wall. So why this happens? Because the charges develop on that the particular object by rubbing it. Means a charge, and this charge object attract that the another charge or uncharged object. So this is the electrostatic force. Means the electrostatic is the force exerted by a charged body on another charged or uncharged body. Means when you rub something on your hair, then the static friction is there. Okay, and the static charges on develop on that the particular object, and when you hold it at a particular distance from something, then it automatically attracted towards them. Then this force is called the electrostatic force. So the electrostatic force is also the one example of that the non-contact force, because here also the comb and the piece of paper, they are not in contact with each other. You just hold it at a particular distance from that the piece of paper, but due to that the charges, the piece of papers are automatically attracted towards that the comb. So this is the electrostatic force. Like the magnet, the charges are also there. We learn about that the magnet have a two poles, north pole and the south pole. So we always know that the like poles repel each other. Here also the like charges repel each other. Means the positive charge always repel each other. Similarly, the negative charge repel each other. But the unlike charges means positive, negative attract each other. In electrostatic or in electrostatics there are the two charges, positive and the negative charge. So always remember that like the poles in the magnet, the charges also play the same role. Means the like poles repel each other while the unlike poles attract each other. Okay, so in today's class what we learn about that the types of forces. Two types of force, contact and the non-contact force. Contact force when the two bodies are in contact, and the non-contact where the two bodies are not in contact but still the force is applied on that the object. So the two types of the contact forces, muscular force and that the force of friction. So the muscular force is the force applied on an object to move from its position with the help of the action of our muscles. This is the muscular force. And the force of friction is the role of that the friction is to oppose the motion of that the object. Okay, and the three types of that the non-contact force: gravitational force, magnetic force, and the electrostatic force. So the gravitational force is the force of attraction of the earth, or the earth exert the force of attraction on that the object. This is the gravitational force. Magnetic force is the force between the two magnets, or the magnet and between the magnetic material. And the electrostatic force is the force between the two charged objects. Okay, charged object or uncharged object, or the both charged object. Okay, so in this class we will learn about that the types of the forces. I think you all must be clear about that. So in the next class we will learn about that what is the pressure. Okay.